Hello and welcome to the Story Engine podcast. My name is Kyle Gray, and today on the show we have Mike Filsaime. Mike is the founder of many powerful softwares created for entrepreneurs to help them do business online. And today we're going to be talking about Click Campaigns, his latest tool that brings together all of the power of AI into one roof, one platform, one tool designed to help make your job as an entrepreneur easier and faster and allow you to do what used to take a team and 30 days in minutes. So without any further ado, let's hand it over to Mike Filsaime. Mike Filsaime, welcome to the Story Engine podcast.
Happy to be here, Kyle.
I am really excited to have you. I have seen you or witnessed you at many different junctures of creating awesome tools. I think the first time was at our mutual friend Charles Bird's Pure JV event. And you bring a lot of generosity with what you do and what you know to so many places. So I'm really honored to have you on the show today.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. We've had this on the calendar for a while.
Yeah. So let's start it off. The audience may not know you as well as I do. Can you tell us a little bit about who you are and how you're showing up in the world today?
Sure. I'm going to be 58 in October. That means I'm a Gen Xer. I'm the start of the Gen X generation. My brother was pretty much the end of the baby boom. He was born in 65. I was born in 67. So that means by the time I was in 10th and 11th grade, the computers had just started coming out. The Apple II, Commodore 64. My brother had just graduated, and I get these little things so that I could. My friends went from Ataris to Atari 5200s to ColecoVisions to these Commodore 64, so we all got them to play games with. The operating system that came on a Commodore was actually BASIC. And little did I know all the commands that I was writing to load a game was actually BASIC, and it came with a manual on how to program. I took that manual, I copied line 10, line 20, line 30, I wrote everything in, I hit send, and it made the computer make a noise and flash things on the screen. I was like, wow, I just made that happen. So I started playing around with it, and my dad would buy lottery tickets back in the day. There were 2 games for $1 in New York State. And he'd spend $20 on Wednesday and $20 on Friday. So that means he'd have 40 tickets that he'd have to check. And back then, you couldn't hand them in. There was no computer checking. You had to check your own tickets. So he'd come home. The lottery would be at 10:35 at night. And by 10:40, he fell asleep with 40 tickets right on his stomach. And he never checked his lottery tickets ever. This is a true story. We could have won $1 million, probably didn't, but could have, and we never would have known. He kept them in a mason jar. But the thing was, he played the same numbers every single week. So I said, hey, I could put that on a floppy disk and check it for him. I wrote that program in 1985, and I called up a magazine called Lottery Players Magazine to put an ad in for the software. The person that answered the question was the owner and editor of Lottery Players Magazine. He couldn't believe the ad that was being read, and he said, wait a second, you mean to tell me that you have a software that can check the lottery tickets in all the states? And I said, yes. And he said, where do you live? And I said, Long Island. He said, I'm in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Come down and show me the software. I went down with my dad, showed him the software, sold it to him for $20,000. And I think like that was the day that I became an entrepreneur. And what I realized is if you can solve a problem for people, especially with software, that's my passion. More than anything, you're not creating features, you're not creating benefits. In many cases, you're not moving people towards pleasure. What you're doing as an entrepreneur is you solve problems. That's what people have a problem they want it solved. You're not selling anything to them. They're willing to pay you the money for it. And so it was a big lesson I learned. But from there, I went 14 years into the car business. I ran some of the nation's largest car dealers. I was the general manager for the second largest Hyundai dealership in the country. And I ran the largest Toyota dealership, privately held Toyota dealership in the country as a general manager. And so I was the guy in the car business that was like, why are salespeople writing down names on things like this? Why don't we computerize the inventory, computerize the key system, computerize the customers? I pioneered what's known as a business development center, and I wanted the girls in the back to make phone calls and set the appointments and let the salespeople focus on the cars. And so I brought a lot of modern things to the internet, to the industry, but that was in 1990 through 2002. So towards the end of my career in the car business, the internet started coming out. And I met people like Frank Kern and Jeff Walker and John Reese. And so that started my journey. And I said, hey, I think this is what I've been put on this earth for, was, websites and funnels and all these different things. And I started having a little bit of success with it. With less than 2 years, I was able to leave my full-time job in the car business and get online. And most people know me as a digital marketer, but there's very rarely anything that I've done online that isn't tied to software. I was the second person ever to do $1 million launch with Butterfly Marketing in 2006. That was software. I had a ClickBank competitor called pay.com, 9-letter domain, PAY.DOTCOM.com. And that was a ClickBank competitor. Sold that and got an exit from that. I created Webinar Jam because GoToWebinar had a limit to 1,000 people, and we were doing a launch, and we needed to get 5,000 people on a webinar. And I said, hey, I had to solve a problem. What do we do? And I created a wrapper for Google Hangouts, which became Webinar Jam, which we further developed. Rich Sheffrin wrote a report called EEDM, Event Driven Evergreen Marketing. And he talked about how you can automate your marketing. So I said, hey, I'm going to take that and I'm going to solve the problem, because how do you do it with the technology? And I created EverWebinar. And so most of the softwares that I've created was always to solve a problem for the marketplace.
What a great weaving from the early childhood and seeing this. I'm really curious about your story. 2 key turning points. You had sold that software and made money, and then you decided to go into the car business. I'm curious what the inflection of that decision was. And then I'm also curious on the other end, somewhere around, you met a few people, and maybe it wasn't a particular moment as much as we'd like it in stories to be. But where was the real moment of turning point of, I should be getting back into this software?
Perfect. Yeah. Clear as day, both of them. So the first one, why the car business? Well, my dad owned Wantagh Mazda Peugeot in Wantagh, New York, in Nassau County, Long Island. So from the day that I was born, my father was in the car business. My brother was in the car business, and I was working. When I sold that software, I was actually in high school. So I told my guidance counselor what I did, and she was like, well, what do you like? And I really didn't know. I wasn't one of these kids that had this grand plan. I was working at Pathmark at a supermarket. And she says, well, New York Institute of Technology in their campus in Nassau County, they just opened a new one up in Central Islip. Why don't you go to New York Institute of Technology and study computer science? And I was like, computer science? I didn't even know that was a thing. And so I go to New York Institute of Technology. And I went for 2.5 years and studied binary assembly language, Cobalt, Fortran, BASIC, and Pascal. And I learned computer programming, but I never had programmed for the web. This is 1985, 1986. And so as I'm going to school for 2 years, I'm working at Pathmark. And this is the 80s. I'm making about $8 an hour part-time. And suddenly I get engaged and I got to get married. And so I now need to go get a real job. So you got to remember, 1980s, the software world, there wasn't even Windows. It was MS-DOS. And there was no such thing as Microsoft Word. It was WordPerfect. There was no Google Sheets or Microsoft Excel. It was Lotus 123. So there was 5 software products out there in the world. And then everything was about making recipes or games. So for me, I wasn't thinking, I'm going to become a computer programmer and go to Seattle. My guidance counselor said to go do that. And so I did it. When I got engaged, I said, I need a real job. And what do I know? I know my dad's in the car business. I'm in the car business, and I'm going to go learn how to sell cars. So April 2nd of 1990, I went and I started my career in the car business, even though I had a fond passion for tech. Now, you got to remember, it's 1990. I'm not saying to myself, one day the internet's going to come out and all of these passions I have. For me and everybody else in the world, there was no such thing as working globally and virtually. It didn't exist. Everybody went to work. You got in your car and you went to work at either a deli, a firehouse, a policeman, a doctor, a lawyer, an accountant, or sales or construction. This was going to be my goal was maybe one day, like my dad, I'll own a car dealership. The internet comes out, and right after 9/11, a lot of things were happening in the car business. We were expanding. The Millennium Auto Group went from 5 dealerships to 13 dealerships in 3 years. And while that was happening, 9/11 happened, and a lot of people just lost their jobs in Manhattan. When we would take over a dealership, Kyle, they would be doing 70 cars a month. And within 30 days, we would get them up to 150 to 200 cars a month. we had a system of selling cars. Most car dealerships were very terrible at it. When we put it in our system, the first thing that would happen is we had 5 salespeople. We needed 15. So we needed 10. The 5 that were there didn't like our new system. Why did you let the customer leave? Well, I don't need you to come. Well, you're fired, right? So we had a lot of turnover. And all of these car dealerships needed salespeople like yesterday. So I became the trainer for all 13 car dealerships. I would bring 14 people into a room every Monday, and by Friday, half of them were gone, and the other 20 of them would go on the sales floor. 2 would go to Lexus, 1 would go to Cadillac, 1 would go here, and all the dealerships were going, "What are you only sending me 1 person? I need 5." It's like, hey, I can only churn out so many people. While that was happening, I'm on America Online, and I'm going online. This new internet is out, and oh, look at this. I can find ways to handle objections. I can find ways to handle a close. Oh, and look at this, the Ben Franklin close. So I'm compiling information, printing it out on my printer, and creating a manual for the salespeople. I must have entered my name and email address on somewhere, and somehow I got onto some list. And I got an email from somebody that had resale rights to a Frank Kern product called Instant Internet Empires. And I read this sales letter. And if you go into the Wayback Machine, anybody that's listening, go into the Wayback Machine. That is the letter that spoke to me, because I didn't even know that any of this existed. Basically, what was happening, this was as you said, the inflection point that was happening was Dan Kennedy, Gary Halbert, Tony Robbins, Don Lepre, all of the stuff that used to be on television, what we would know as a business opportunity, direct response. Remember the old Don Lepre's ads? I'm going to show you how to take a classified ad, one tiny classified ad, and put it in blah, 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 blah. That was old school. Now, what people were doing is saying, hey, we're going to take all of these things, creating sales letters and direct mail, and we're going to put them onto a website. That's why websites have absurd terms like above the fold. That came because when we were in direct response, we would create a sales letter. And when you opened up the sales letter, the headline and all the core information had to be above the fold. If they had to do another fold, so we took those same exact things and brought them to online. We use words like Johnson box and above the fold and all of these silly things that don't really translate, but that's where it came from. So Frank Kern was a student of Dan Kennedy, and he took a sales letter where Dan Kennedy would have wrote it, put it in an envelope, and mailed it to people. And it's funny, that's why we call it a sales letter. It's really not a letter, but we didn't have any other word but calling it a sales letter. And so we called it a video sales letter when it was in video. So what happened was I read this letter from Frank Kern, and it says that you can now have a global business. You can now take a new company just came out called PayPal, so you can get money instantly. And there's something called an ebook, so the product can get delivered to the person right away. It's not MLM. You don't need inventory. You don't have to ship anything, and you'll get your money instantly, deliver instantly. And this just spoke to me. I said, oh my God, I bought that thing. And Frank had a video course that taught me how to build a website, how to load my products on there, and how to sell and put a PayPal button. And I did that in October of 2002. And by March of 2003, I had quit the car business within 6 months.
You got the information, you saw a pattern, and you went for it. And I could even detect a few hints of like, I didn't know the internet was coming out. And almost as if there was like this slight yearning of like, maybe if I would have known that the internet was coming out, I might have done things a little bit differently. But there's something poignant that I feel is in that reflective to what you have to talk about today and the point that we are now, which is a very similar inflection point where a lot of where AI is right now is right where the internet was then. And you have spent a long time making sure you're like right at the front lines of this and right at the peak of this wave, and have been spending a lot of time figuring this out and building on your long history in software and in sales. And I'm sure that the working on the car lots was, and especially training all of those people in sales, was foundational and integral to a lot of the softwares that you now create as well. But bringing this to today, you showed me before the call your new Click Campaigns AI tool. And it's the latest in a long generation of softwares that you have worked on to help empower particularly entrepreneurs. And you made some interesting distinctions just before that I'm excited to dive into again. Can you give us like a quick 30,000 foot view of ClickCampaign's AI and who you want it to serve and why?
Yeah, Kyle, as I said, you always want to be solving a problem. AI came out in November, as we know it, November of 2022 with ChatGPT. It's crazy how much we take for granted now to how much we went crazy for 3 days sharing stuff. Look, I asked it to write a poem or this, and we all went crazy with it. And then, wow, you can make images. Holy cow, you can make video. To suddenly, oh my God, already there's just, it just doesn't end. There's a new language model. There's a new this. It's exhausting. Like we pretty much have AI fatigue. But what's been promised to us is these agents. And these agents were supposed to come along, and we keep hearing it's going to replace the copywriter and the graphic designer and all these different people. And nobody's seen it yet. It's like, I kind of get it. They're out there. I've changed my workflow a little bit. ClickCampaigns was designed to deliver on the promise that all digital marketers were told that AI would do. It's a team of 20 different marketing people: your designer, your illustrator, your copywriter, your email expert, your website maker, your funnel maker, the person that writes your webinars, your Facebook ads. It's every single person that would be in the marketing and social media team as an AI agent. The problem that it solves is you would need a team of 5-7 people in the Philippines or whatever, and 30 days to create a campaign. Now there's different AI tools that you pay all these different platforms for. What ClickCampaigns does is it allows you to answer some questions about your business, and it creates a brand knowledge base about your business. And then you start a campaign, you click and hire the different agents that you want, you give it a campaign goal, and then you tweak some of the agents for specific instructions, and you just click launch campaign. And then Alex is the AI campaign agent that coordinates with all of the different agents, and you see him coordinating. And then they start writing the 7-day email follow-up sequence, the onboarding email sequence, the affiliate swipe sequence. They create landing page, the upsell page, the thank you page, the webinar registration page. They write your webinar for you. They build your brand website. They make your funnel, they write your Facebook ads, and they write your blog reviews. You see the conversation happening. Puts everything in document. When you're done, you one-click export everything to Google Docs. And so what would take tens of thousands of dollars in a team of 15 people, 30 days to do, can now get done, hence the name ClickCampaigns. Gets done in 15 minutes.
And the time is one thing, but I think also the cycles. It's not just doing the thing that's hard in marketing, particularly for an entrepreneur, because marketing is only one component of our business. It's very big and very important, but there's probably a lot of other things going on. And the way that you showed this tool is it has all of these inputs, but it also lays out the strategy. Because as a marketer, I have a ton of tools. I know how to make an Instagram or a webinar or an email sequence, but like putting them all together in the right way, and then when to do them and why, and making sure they're consistent on them all I can do it. And it's a lot of work to do all of those things. And so we're not just saving time on the actual executing on it, but there's just so many critical decisions that somebody has to make in like, what do I want my campaign to do? And how should I do this? And how many emails should I put in here? That this system seems to do a very good job at just walking you through those parts of things that would take a lot of choices out of your day so you can focus on the things that you want more. And with the time that we're saving, we can deploy these a lot faster and a lot more experimentally, and take more chances to get interesting results, where trying to do change this up after 30 days or somewhere in the 30-day process with all these different people working on it causes a lot of problems.
Yeah, that's what we wanted to solve. Save you time, save you money, and give you output that's even more effective than you could do by even paying employees to do it.
Yeah, and this is something you've done before, but all of the tools as well. It's not just choices, but like most of these promised like AI simplifications and automations of our lives require 5 or 6 or 7 tools to be integrated at once. and you've done a good job just looking
Thank
behind
you.
the scenes of it and making all of these tools in one place, which I think is something you've striven for in other ways. I feel like Kartra was very kindred to this in the sense that it was everything in one place, which I think is a really strong model for a lot of people.
Yeah, and Groove, the new platform, after I sold Kartra, Groove is very, very similar in that same respect. Having subscriptions for Samcart and Kajabi and Shopify, and then having to install a WordPress blog, and then having to pay a subscription to Wistia and all these different platforms and making them plug in, duct tape together. We wanted to create something where the user interface is the same and you can go in, log into one place, and have everything just work together.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious, maybe back onto your thought process and you've built a lot of different softwares, and I'm curious about if maybe this is mostly instinctual, but what's your process of finding problems to solve? Because you've made a lot of interesting choices in what you've chosen to develop.
So there's two parts to it. Number one is right smack out of Jim Collins' book, my favorite book, Good to Great. Jim Collins, the first 6 words of the book is "good is the enemy of great." That's how the book starts. And I remember just looking at that page. I couldn't turn the page for 5 minutes. And I'm trying to understand, what is he saying? Good is the enemy of great. And what he said, basically the premise of Good to Great and why good is the enemy of great, is you really don't want to go into anything unless you feel that you can be world class. I don't want to say best in the world at something, but if you're not in the conversation of the Mount Rushmore of this, where you are considered one of the world-class products, you really don't necessarily want to go into that marketplace. And he talks about the intersection of 3 circles: circle 1, circle 2, and circle 3. And then you have that little intersection of the 3 circles, which he calls the hedgehog concept. And the intersection of those 3 circles is, what is something that you are deeply passionate about? If you're not deeply passionate, it's going to show in your work. Circle number 2 over here is, what is something that you are a world-class expert at? So you could be deeply passionate about basketball, but you're not going to be an NBA player if you're 5'6". Maybe you'll make a great coach like Jeff Van Gundy. Short, good coach, can't play basketball. And then finally, the third circle is, you understand the economics of the marketplace. You know how to make, you can write the song, you can perform the song, but do you have what it takes to get it to become a number 1 single? Right? Do you have the distribution? Do you understand the way the market works? And if you can combine those 3 things, your passion, your expertise, and the understanding of the core metrics of the marketplace, you're going to be a winner. So that's number 1 for me. I have to be passionate about it. Like, I'm really excited about it. Number 2, do I understand this better than anybody? Can I speak it? Can I go on stage? Can I talk about it the way Russell is with funnels? Can you become that expert? And do you know how to make it work? So that's number 1. Number 2, where does the product idea come from? It generally comes from 2 things. I try to stay away, or let me say this thing that is a mantra that I truly believe in. Pioneers get slaughtered and settlers prosper. You have to be very, very careful when you go out to the marketplace on new technology. All of these new companies that came out from OpenAI and built wrappers, they all got, within 6 months, they were here, and then they crashed because the technology moves so fast. Even one of our original products, Groove.ai, it blew away anything you can get from ChatGPT. And within a year, ChatGPT had everything and more. And essentially that product is just not worth even introducing or mentioning it as a brand anymore. Mm-hmm. So you have to be careful, but if you can see that there's technology and there's a gap in the marketplace, you can definitely seize it. But what I'll say, the better way to do it is let the pioneer go out there, and then you become a settler and prosper. So my method is basically this: try to identify when there is a Coke in the marketplace and there's no Pepsi. And so if you see somebody dominating, like Lead Pages did, do you remember Lead Pages? Mm-hmm. Right? They were the Coke. Russell said, hey, I'm going to go out and I'm going to create the Pepsi. And his Pepsi won. And then Go High Level came and changed it up again. If you look at why we created Kartra, we looked at, there was a Coca-Cola in the marketplace that had no Pepsi. Back then it was called Infusionsoft, and everybody was on it. And everybody kept walking up to each other at masterminds. Hey, dude, let me ask you a question. What are you using to run your business? Infusionsoft. Shit. Yeah, me too. And it's like everyone was looking for this answer. So we were like, let's create the better product for this marketplace. So that is usually what I will do. I'll try to identify. And in my opinion, I still think there's a Coke with no Pepsi right now, and that's Shopify. I think somebody in Silicon Valley would be very, very wise for me to question you when you're on an e-commerce platform and go, are you using Shopify or blah, 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 right? There should always be like, are you using ClickFunnels or Go High Level, right? There should be that. And if you're a software developer and you're passionate, you have the expertise and you think you can make it work, then jump right into the food court and put your store right next to theirs.
Wow. Great philosophy. And sounds like even a free business idea in there for any developers out there waiting to take down a giant.
Yeah, but, let me say that. Let me say this also, Kyle.
Yeah.
There's something that I tell a lot of people sometimes, and it really goes like this. If there's a Coke in the marketplace, what you want to try to do is create the Pepsi. And if you end up only creating Dr. Pepper, that's okay too. Because I always try to get people to laugh at Dr. Pepper. Like, where is it? You can't find it. It's on the bottom shelf all the way to the left. Kyle, would you love to be the sole owner of Dr. Pepper? Like, wouldn't that be pretty awesome? Like how much money that could generate for you? If
Are you telling me this, applying your previous lens to this, I can only go out into this world if I know it's going to be world class? Dr. Pepper is something I'd walk away with. So Dr. Pepper is world class, is what you're saying.
Yes, because what happens is if you want to create a membership site, people will say things like, well, how are you going to compete with school? You know, I heard they're $1 billion company. You're going up against Alex Hormozy and Sam Ovens. You know, they're doing $250 million a year. Okay, would it be that bad if you created a school competitor that only did $10 million a year, right? You know, there's Kajabi, there's Thinkific, but, you know, there's a lot of companies out there that people are like, well, how are we going to compete with so-and-so? Go make yourself a $3 million brand. Don't worry that they're doing 50 million or 70 million. Create a nice little boutique brand. And you don't have to say we have to go create a $100 million company. There's a lot of boutique ways to make a $3 million or $7 million company.
So let's bring it back to click campaigns. And again, some of the main problems that I was hearing that you set out to solve is it would take a team of 5 to 7 people, 30 days, and thousands of dollars at a minimum to create good campaigns. And just managing all of these things, managing all of the decisions is fatiguing and exhausting, especially as somebody who identifies as an entrepreneur. We love to do marketing in a lot of ways, but making all those choices is fatiguing, and managing all of these different tools. And it sounds like there was this essence of this promise, like a bit of a frustration that we're feeling. Like, I thought AI was going to help me by now, and I'm kind of just getting, like, there was that moment of, wow, this could be good. And now we almost felt like I've just gotten little trinkets that I have to kind of smash together to work, and it's not made that much of an impact yet. And so there's this yearning for this promise. Are there any major other pain points that you'd want to express?
Yeah, I think that, like, when it came to AI, the question is, like, how does it apply to me? So all of these things were cool, but if the image generation software came out, did it really respond or did it correspond to any particular person? No. The images made it better for the person that was making stuff on Photoshop. And you had to kind of piecemeal, like, how does this help me with my social media? Or whether you're creating video, how does it make my ads better? And should I be using ChatGPT for this? Or should I be using Claude? What I feel is that all of these platforms are just AI, and they're meant to serve like a global audience. And you have these agents now, like ChatGPT agent and GenSpark agent, Abacus agent, and Manus.im. And these are general purpose tools. And all of these websites, you know, they have the person, and it's the founder, and maybe he's, you know, from India or Asia or Silicon Valley. And he's like, hi, today we want to talk to you about GenSpark. Let me show you how I can book a hotel and rent a car. And like, you're watching and you have to kind of infer, okay, how does that apply to digital marketing? So what I wanted to do is take these the concept of this multi-purpose agent that will book your flight, and who cares, right? Booking a flight is not that complicated for me, right? Booking, now I'm going to tell it my dietary restrictions, and look at this, it's going out and finding restaurants. Well, that doesn't solve a problem. I don't have a problem finding a restaurant, with a dairy allergy for my wife, right? So what I wanted to do is I wanted to take the core concept of this agent and say specifically to the digital marketer, this is a tool that is built by a digital marketer for a digital marketer. Why? Because I'm an expert and I have a passion for AI. I can put those two together and create a software that really talks to the end consumer, the digital marketer, and solves the problem that we finally took all of the convergence of AI, where it creates images and videos, and it'll create your freemium and your report, your landing pages, your Facebook ads. And it's converging all of the technology together into one tool, one workflow that works for the digital marketing entrepreneur.
Beautiful. So that's a good solution as well. And I think what team of 5 to 7 people, 30 days is now I can create a campaign in a half a day.
Easily. I would say the first time a half a day, because you have to answer 20 questions about your business so that it truly knows your customers' pain points, what keeps them up at night, how you solve it. But once you have that knowledge base built, the next campaign you'll be able to create what would again take several months to do. I know we used to start and it would take 2 months to create all of these assets. Now can be done in under an hour.
So and I think it's this feeling of being understood and seen. This tool is actually designed for me. And I'm left-handed, and trying to hold a pair of right-handed scissors is a nightmare. I hope not many people have to experience that. And that's kind of what I think of what you're saying with these different tools that are designed for kind of general purpose. And we have to do a lot of the thinking of how to cobble these together. So, perfect. I would love to hear a little bit more of your stories and your experiences. And I actually, based on what you said, have a sense of maybe where this story starts. I want to read these back to you one more time, the pain points,
Sure.
And explore possible times where you were feeling these pains yourself. So a time where you were creating a campaign for something you do all the time, and maybe you had to make a change, or maybe something was wrong, and you were just looking around at all of your team members and this kind of how do we steer this ship in a different direction that's so necessary right now? So many tools weaving together, so many decisions. Maybe some are AI, maybe are not. Was there a time where you really felt the weight of this inertia?
It's a little more complex than that.
Yeah.
What it was pre-AI and revenue. We were doing extremely well. Our very first year, we did $18 million in 8 months, and things were just going great. We built up a huge organization, but the bottom line is there was a very specific reason why we jumped onto the market scene. But then, if we were doing $8 million a year $7 million a year in revenue, we might have had $7.5 million in expenses. Well, we need to cut, and we'd cut down to 6 million, but that year we would only do 5.5 million. And then when we would cut, we lost momentum, and then we weren't able to even keep that 5.5 million. So it would drop to maybe 4.5 million. We'd had 5 million in expenses, and you'd run that for a couple of years. You find yourself about $1.5 million in debt. So what we decided to do was the right choice. And that choice was to rip the Band-Aid off and just strip the company down to its core employees. When this girl is pregnant and you don't want to lay her off, and every time you have a meeting, it's well, she just had a baby, and you got all these people that you try to build this culture, and they're your team members. And we just speaking perfectly, specifically from a business point of view, when we cut everybody, and by the way, sometimes you're thinking, should we cut this person? And no, we can't do that. They're so loyal, and then you find out 2 days later you get a call from one of the other employees. What did you hear? So and so just quit. What? We were so worried about them, they quit, and they're not even giving us a 2-week notice. So you realize the most important thing that you have to do is make a decision for the health and the well-being of the company. You have to put the company first for the existing employees, and lay off when you need to lay off. And the reason why I say this is twofold. Number one After we did that, and we literally cut the company down to about 7 to 9 people, we were like, wow, my goodness, this weight is lifted. Like payroll is so light, we can breathe again and everything like that. And then this happened when AI came out. And I started realizing, wow, we don't necessarily need to hire this person. We didn't need a copywriter. We didn't need a social media team. I don't need content writers, blah, blah, blah. We can do everything by creating a brand knowledge base. And even my guys that build my funnels for me who needed a copywriter, I've taught them how to use a brand knowledge base or click campaigns to get all the copy automatically out of it for me. So I don't know that it was definitely, I wouldn't say that it was a dream that I had that I could replace these employees. It was something that actually happened through finances. And I said to myself, wow, thank God that actually happened, because today I might have, if we were making money, I might have just kept all of those employees just out of loyalty and culture. And being forced to do it, I now realize that, I feel bad for that person, that their company is this big boat like the Titanic, and they see the iceberg and they're turning the wheel like this. All this effort's going into turning the wheel, and the ship is moving this slow up at the front. And now we're nimble. We're as nimble as a speedboat. We hit the rudder in the back and the boat instantly makes a left turn. And so being able to have click campaigns means I can keep my company light, raise the revenue, and never have to build this big bloated company ever again. And I'm looking to be able to do that for startups. For people that are coming in for startups, we could shatter the myth that they need these entire teams anymore. They can do it as a solopreneur or maybe 1 or 2 employees rather than having to build these massive teams.
Great. Would you like to hear your story?
I'd love to.
I woke up to a morning that was worse than Groundhog Day. I knew exactly what I needed to be doing. A few months ago, we had hit the biggest peak in software sales, maybe of my career. 18 million in 8 months. The software was growing. We had a huge team, and we became this mighty force. But we were unable to really see or adapt as AI started rolling out and changing the marketplace. And from going from 18 million highs, all of a sudden, we started losing momentum. Revenue would go down and our costs would stay the same. And we would have to cut away a few team members. Revenue would fall further from these choices. And I would have to wake up again and look at my company and my team and decide who to cut. I'd feel the pain of it. And slowly but surely, I saw my company whittling away in front of me. These were tough decisions, hard decisions. People I liked, I cared about, that did work hard and did do well, were simply, from my point of view, in a place where I couldn't help them anymore. And I needed to be able to adapt and move quickly as my business started to slow down. As I saw the writing on the wall, I knew I needed to rip the Band-Aid off. And I cut my company from hundreds and hundreds of people down to just 7 to 9 people. This was one of the most difficult periods of my life. And at the bottom of that, and seeing the key team members, I felt a weight and a bit of discovery and possibility. While we got the revenue stabilized and started growing, I saw new opportunities to plug in people and ideas and systems and AI into what we were doing that didn't necessarily need a team member anymore. As I was learning more and more about AI, I was sharing with my other team members what we could do. And they started doing the work of 2 or 3 or even 4 people. But soon other problems started to appear. As I was using a different set of tools, everyone was using a different set of tools and cobbling them together in different ways to make this work. And I saw this same problem, this problem that I've seen time and time again in the software industries that I've worked in. Tiny disjointed pieces, not designed for entrepreneurs, but being cobbled together to just barely make things a little bit better. And I saw this opportunity. What if all of these systems, all of these things built for entrepreneurs, by entrepreneurs, could really promise or handle this future of AI? Instead of being the company that was torn down and restructured because we couldn't be nimble enough, I want to become and make the company that empowers entrepreneurs with the power and the insights and the flexibility that we believed in with AI. And so now in the next 45 minutes, I'm going to teach you exactly how clickcampaigns.ai can help empower you to create campaigns in hours that used to take you days and make you fast, adaptable, and ready for the AI future.
You have a gift, Kyle. That's quite impressive.
Thank you, Mike.
That was that is a gift to be able to do that. I'm impressed.
Thank you. It's an honor. Thank you. You had some incredible stories to draw on. This has been a very fun interview, and I appreciate all of the little moments that you have shared with us today, and really great wisdom. As on brand as you are, you never let somebody leave without learning some incredible stuff.
Thank you. And as you said, that's a gift that you're giving me. Now that you know how I use information, I'm going to literally take what you gave me as that gift right there when we get the actual transcription of that, and I'm going to build that into my knowledge base, so it's now part of the story that I could use for the webinars and the emails and creative ads on Facebook. I want to thank you for that.
Absolutely. I'm sure there's a few more things you can like fill in and bring to your truth to it, but I would be honored and can't wait to hear how it goes.
Yeah, I'll definitely let you know. I'll be one of your best case studies. I hope.
Yeah. Well, tell me about where we can go to find out more about you and Click Campaigns in particular, and if you have any closing thoughts for us today.
Yeah, the best way to get to learn more about what we're doing is you can go to groove.cm and just get a free account with Groove. It's free, no credit card required. And but if you really want to see where the moving and shaking goes on, become part of our community. We have 150,000 people in our Facebook group. If you go to Facebook and you just type in groove.cm official, you'll get the official groove.cm Facebook group. I think there's 150,000 members in there, and we're constantly giving all of our updates in there. And so it's a better way than having to worry about getting email from us.
Awesome. Mike Filsaime. And a closing thought for us.
Okay, closing thought. Focus on health if you're young and you're listening to this. What I'm going to say to you might creep you out, and it's a topic for a philosophical conversation Kyle and I can maybe do on another podcast. But we are truly, and I mean this not in the sense of like anything hyperbolic, we are truly at the most incredible time for all the 250,000 years that humans have been on this planet, that if you were to die now would be such a shame, because what is happening right now is what the breakthroughs that we're going to see in AI are going to happen like this. Imagine you're on a surfboard and you're surfing, and we could talk about the complications of this on the planet, the economy, and the social governance. What would happen if you're surfing right now and you actually surf the wave that takes you to eternal life? You may call me crazy right here, but these are discussions that are happening. And if you were to fall off the surfboard, well, you died. That's it. It's all over. Now, I know many of you may not want to live forever, but let's just take that off the table. What is happening right now is we have the ability to, with the technology that's coming, probably move the expected life expectancy we'll see in the next 5 to 10 years. We'll probably start moving for people that are my age, 60 and younger, to about 120. And then 3 years after that, to 5 years after that, they'll probably make the life expectancy 150 years, 170 years, 180 years. Within 10 to 15 years, what we'll probably see is that they are going to be able to stop the aging process completely. Within about 15 to 20 years, we will probably, and that's when they say by 2045 we'll hit the singularity, we will probably be able to find out what is affecting cell degradation and telomeres and everything, and actually be able to find and reset your genes to your prime age of 29 years old and reverse engineer, reverse your aging process back to a peak person. Now, some people may say they may not want to live forever. I had this conversation with my mom. I said, and she goes, why would? And she's 82 and she's not well, has very little time left on the planet. And I said to her, Mom, if you had the ability to live forever, would you? And she says, no, I'm tired, I'm old. And so I rephrased the question for her. I said, Mom, and she's really not doing well. I said, Mom, let me ask you a question. If I could snap my fingers like this instantly, and you would know all of the wisdom that you have today, and you were able to Instantly go back to when you were 29 years old. Would you do it? My very sick mom, her face lit up and she smiled. She goes, oh, God, because she can't even get up and walk. It's difficult. She says, oh, what I would love to do to be able to walk and get back and drive my car. And if I could just walk the dog and go to the beach and go to the garden and dance. Oh, I would love to dance. And so my mom said that she would love that. And so here's my thing to you. If you're 29 years old today and you're healthy, do you want to die tomorrow? No, you want to live forever. So I know it sounds crazy to think that we could live forever. So here's the thing. If you're drinking and you're smoking and you're not taking care of yourself and you're not getting your cardio in and all these things, you're really blowing an opportunity. It's a lot longer, Kyle, than I think you had expected. So I apologize that I went a little long, but that's why I have that little smile there. Should I bring this up? But we're at the point right now where we know too much about health. You got to get off the seed oils, start eating natural food, take care of your body, and you'll be in a position where you'll be able to live, if not forever, but a much, much longer life. The technology is going to be there. We want our bodies to be ready for it. We don't ever want to be heard, you're not a candidate, right? Like my mom, she's just too old right now. But if we get our house in order, we're going to be in a good position for the new technology, and it's coming. I promise you that.
Well, there is a great tie-in with what you've already said, and health is one of my favorite topics. I've been working hard on my health and have had my own set of challenges going on that. So, but that's really encouraging. And you've brought together a lot from this show. So Mike Filsaime, thank you so much for taking the time, sharing your personal experiences, your stories, your wins and your losses with us, and this bright picture of the future. It's been an honor.
Thank you, Kyle. Bye, everyone.